Your district?
Thank you. I'm really glad this is here, that we're finally getting to deal with this. As was in the report, this goes back to 2007. And I have a whole pile of different inspections that have gone through the years. The first thing I want to say to the tenants is that this is not your fault. To the landlord, you've been collecting money, and that's an interesting thing, that there's all this money that's been going out and there's this situation. And I hear you. You want the abatement. I want this abatement. I've been on the Board of Supervisors for 7 years, and this is the one issue that makes me not sleep at night. I worry about you all. When the ghost ship happened in 2016, I immediately thought of this place. It's not safe. And this is the whole reason. I'm going to talk about a lot of other things, but the main thing about this is that you are not safe. Bethel Island is an island, one way in, one way out. Up until last year, there were 9 people protecting 150 square miles, and Bethel Island was way out there. In 2021, Douglas Hiles died at one of the marinas in Bethel Island. His boat burned down. We've had several fires. And when we want to fight a fire, we need water. And if we don't have power to get to the water, we can't fight those fires. And these are folks that are vulnerable. They don't necessarily have health insurance. They don't necessarily get to see the doctor. These are vulnerable people. And they're paying rents that they can probably barely afford, which is lower than a lot of the rents. These are vulnerable people. I want to protect these folks. Now, we talk about responsibilities. A landowner has certain zoning, things that they're allowed to do, things that they have to maintain those zoning. I don't know everything that's happened, just to be clear. But when I stepped in, I said, we need to lean in on this. And some of the things that started to happen paused or slowed down because of COVID and all of the requirements related to housing and keeping people separate and keeping people safe. We are now stepping in and leaning in. And we have responsibilities. And, I appreciate legal aid helping people. But I wonder, wouldn't you hold the people that didn't hold Ghost Ship responsible for what they were doing? Wouldn't you want to represent people against those folks that didn't do their job? Right? And wouldn't you, I have questions about, there was a comment about holding landlord responsible for the moving and all of those. I don't know. I'll ask our legal counsel to give us that. I heard over and over, how much time do we have to get out of here? And so I'd like to really get that solid so that people will understand. And like I said, this is about people, human beings being safe. And I understand that it is scary and stressful and inconvenient to have to move. But you are in a place you're not supposed to be, in conditions that you shouldn't be in. You, as a human being, shouldn't be around the filth, around the danger. You need to be safe. And that's why we are stepping in and holding people responsible. So we will need to communicate the time. I do know that people have been trying to help. And I know that also within certain communities, there are people that are going to say, I don't want your help. I want to stay here, and I'm going to do everything I can to stay here, those folks, you're not going to get the help you need if you don't take it. So I'm telling you, lean in, listen, and take the help. Hear the timing. Do what you need to do. You are not in a safe place, and we are going to take care of this. There was another question that I'd like to ask about, there was a comment that we were going to help the landlord by not making them pay, and that they were going to get $100,000 taken off. I would like that clarified. And then I'm just going to mention the other costs that are here. The environmental costs. People talked about the chemicals, the garbage, everything that's going into the water and the land, the garbage that's piling up, the impacts on the neighbors, the impacts on the property values. It is not a good situation, and we are leaning in and being responsible. So, going back to you tenants, it is not your fault, but it now you need to be moving on. And so we will be helping you. If there's county staff that want to provide something in the lobby or step up and want to, help people, I welcome that. But this needs to happen. You guys are not safe, and I care, and I imagine my colleagues are going to care. And we want you to be safe. We will do everything we can to give you the resources to find, but it's not going to be as cheap. You're not going to have the same kind of freedom that you have living where you're living, because that's not what you're supposed to be. It's not permitted. So we want you to be safe. I am going to move this item, and if there's any county staff that want to help me answer those questions, is there a ask to the landlords to help pay for moving? What is the timing? Are we doing anything that is helping this landlord avoid paying money? I think those are the three things that I wanted to ask.
Certainly. Thank you, Supervisor Burgis. I can start by addressing the timeline issue. Of course, we've been preparing for this for months now, and working very closely with staff at Health Services, conducting outreach at the property now for several months, many visits having been made, and many services already extended, with some people on the property recently accepting shelter placements. Going forward from here, the board order recommends providing the property owner 10 days to remove the violations from the property. If the violations are not removed within 10 days, then we would schedule the abatement. I would propose that we would schedule the abatement such that we would be able to give at minimum 2 weeks notice to everyone on the property of the date that the abatement was going to occur.
2 weeks from the 10 days from now?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So 10 plus 14, 24 at a minimum number of days from now that the abatement would occur. But we would be, once the abatement is scheduled, of course we would post notice of that throughout the property, and working with our partners at Health Services, we would continue to be going out to the property on a regular basis to offer services throughout that time.
And the role that the Sheriff's Department plays in this, in the timeline. If people aren't leaving and we get to that end of that, say, 24 days, what is the sheriff's role in this?
Hopefully we don't get to that point. Hopefully people acknowledge that the abatement is going to happen, that people accept services before that were to occur. But if we did encounter a situation where people refuse to leave the property, we would consult with our legal counsel and take appropriate action at that point.
So we're really hoping that people are going to cooperate and take the services that we offer from the rest of the county.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Can you answer the question about the what the county's somehow underwriting or whatever this other person alleged?
The county has no agreement with the property owner whatsoever. The way these abatements proceed is that the county would hire a contractor to conduct the abatement. We estimate the cost of the abatement to be approximately $80,000. The property owner would be billed for the cost of the abatement, and if the property owner does not pay for the cost of the abatement, it's charged to the property.
Meaning it's a lien, and so that when they sell that property, we get that money out of the sale of the property.
Yes, it would be established as a lien on the property. That's
Okay.
right, if not paid.
And is there any, is it within our sphere to insist that the landlord help the folks financially based on the, whatever she'd said about certain, I don't know, policies that that people are supposed to pay? Relocation? Thank you.
Yeah, so I would say that, the county is not a party to any disputes between the people living on the property and the property owner. So that's really a matter between the folks living there and the property owner, but I would also defer to county council if there's anything further to be said on that point.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just add, there's the statute that the legal aid attorney referred to. Tenants are entitled to relocation benefits under certain circumstances. That's when they're basically being ordered to vacate a residential rental unit because of health and safety conditions. But that presumes that the residential rental unit has proper permits. It's things like apartments and mobile home parks that are permitted. This is a case where there's no permits, and so I don't think that the residential rental unit definition that's referred to in the statute would apply here.
But that would be a civil matter that they would need to go to court about, correct?
I think the real dispute here is between the people living there and then the property owner, and it would be between them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any other comments? Federal?
Yes, I want to support the supervisor. I know that she's been dealing with a lot there. Years and years ago, I had this district, and it certainly hasn't changed in terms of the problem that you're talking about on the Marina in all those years. And I know another supervisor was in prior to you, but yeah, this isn't fair to the tenants. The living conditions are something that you definitely do not need to be a part of, and I wholeheartedly support and would second the motion for abatement. But I would, a couple of questions. How many units are we talking about?
The numbers change a little bit from time to time, but right now there's approximately a dozen recreational vehicles and trailers on the property, and we estimate there's somewhere between 20 to 30 people living there.
Okay. And I guess the other question, I'll look to health services or our homeless service. Do we have accommodations to help folks? Yes.
Start with the easy stuff, and then I brought reinforcements with Lavana, but we do in fact have services. We also will be following our abatement protocol, which means that CORE will be going out daily until that site is abated. So we have in fact had some placements. I'll let Lavana summarize those, but we've been out there several times. March 3rd, 8th, 13th, 16th, 27th, April 11th, 25th, and May 2nd, and we'll be going daily going forward.
So far, we know that 7 individuals have accepted shelter. In our experience, individuals, as abatement comes closer, that individuals do take us up on other opportunities. We will continue to do that, which is why we accelerate our visits to the site, and we'll be doing that up until the time it closes. We will make sure that as that time comes up, that as through attrition, through some of our other shelter programs, as those beds become available through attrition, we will hold those beds in the hope that individuals, as that time comes closer, we'll then have the ability to place them. So we will follow our encampment protocols during this.
Can I ask a question? Yeah. What about people's things? What about, say, a motorhome that's not functional to drive?
Right.
What about a houseboat that's not functional to drive into?
All those are very difficult situations. We do not have the ability to move vehicles that are inoperable. We tend to work very closely then with our partners, whether it's law enforcement or code, to make sure that those vehicles get moved as needed. We do try to make room for individuals' belongings. So although we do have limited capacity, so as individuals move, hopefully into shelter, that they'll be able to pare down their belongings as best as possible to come inside.
Would you like to make a motion?
Did make the motion, but I also wanted to.
Be clear about, did you make a motion to approve, close the public hearing and approve the staff recommendation?
Exactly what I was making a motion, but I did want to make one more.
Okay.
I did want to make one more thing. We have code enforcement here. Conrad, I just want to thank you for all you do. And once we get past the abatement, I would like to make sure we're doing whatever we can. If you haven't heard of the broken window syndrome, we want to keep this area clean and not let it keep repeating. So whatever we need to do, whether it's signage, the owner putting in a fence that blocks the driveway, whatever it is, we need to then keep on top of it so that we can actually make a difference. And thank you for all your work, Conrad. So yes, I made that motion.
Is that right? Just one question, or I might roll into 3. But where do the boats, the docks, fall into the abatement process? I mean, I don't know how many boats there are, but from looking at photos, what I'm getting at is everybody's addressed, and we've done a great job talking about the safety of the tenants and protecting their health, safety, and welfare. But then we also have the environmental issues. We continue to have boats. So where will they fit into the abatement process? Will we prevent access to docks going forward? Because we could see potentially additional people showing up after the fact.
Yeah, that's a good question, Supervisor. Thank you. You're right. The boats and the docks are not in the scope of the abatement, so the abatement doesn't propose removing the boats. The boats are actually in the waterway.
Right.
They're not on the private property per se. So we would continue working with the Sheriff's Office, with the Marine Patrol, to monitor that situation. And then evaluating the docks, and if they are unsafe, blocking them off, try to discourage people from going onto them if they're unsafe.
I would just tell the property owner, be ready. You have a lot of work still to do. You know, when you look at, we spend a lot of our time and energy working hard to protect our Delta waterways and our environment, and you are messing it up, and it is on you. And it will not be over just because we take a garbage pile and a few trailers away.
So there is a motion and a second. Please vote. Okay. Passed. Okay. I have a message that the youth advocates will need to leave by 2. We can come back. So I don't know how long this presentation will be from the health department. It's an update.
I wonder if we should continue this matter, only because
okay.
I don't know that
Sure.
we'll be able to have all of that conversation.
All
I
right.
recognize they're
So
at school.
So let's work to continue that item. So item D3 will be continued. Do we need to take any public comment if someone is here, Tom? If we're going to continue the item?
It's not a notice public hearing, so you can just continue it.
Okay, so we will continue the item. Is there someone here that wanted to speak on that item? Why don't we, understanding that item D3 is continued, you want to speak just right now? Because and if the young person could just give a comment, and we'll reschedule this whole item. But